What's up, friends, family, and loved ones? This is the Data Man trying to get situated here. You know, let's talk about this Roe v. Wade thing real quick. First, I'm going to give you my personal opinion. My personal opinion is that abortion is wrong. And I think there are a lot of people, men and women, that take advantage of it. And I think it's very selfish to be irresponsible with your bodies and your lifestyle. There are women that didn't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 abortions. That's wrong. I do think that and believe that it is murder to abort a child. But the key word in that is I think. And another key word I used is I believe. What I think and what I believe should not be the law. Let me say it again. What I think and what I believe should not be the law. And it is that woman's body. And to try to tell somebody what they can and can't do with their body is wrong as well. To try to force a woman to carry a child for 9 months that she doesn't want to carry is cruel and inhumane. To make a woman carry a child for 9 months, bring that child into the world, and then raise a child that she doesn't want, how do you think that child's going to be treated? What chances do you think that child is going to have? Doesn't look very good. But if that woman got raped, child comes out looking like the rapist. It's not good for mom, not good for the child. What if a 12 or 13-year-old little girl is raped or molested and gets pregnant? She has to bring that child into the world. What if the child is going to have a birth defect? What happens then? I have to watch this guy walking past my truck trying to be slick. I don't want him to end up getting himself hurt because he don't know who he messing with. But he went on about his business though. He did the right thing. But in any event, you're going to make that 12 or 13-year-old little girl give birth to that child and raise that child. She's a child herself. What if she doesn't have a good support system at home? You know, we do have rules and there are rules, but there is an exception to every rule. And I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. And I believe that I serve a God that gives us free will. We have an almighty God, maker and creator of everything. Yet he or she or whatever you want to say gives us free will. So who are we to try to force our will upon each other when we serve a God that's wise enough to allow us to make our own mistakes? I'm just saying. So what is this really about? I don't think they really care about the unborn child. I really don't. Because once the child gets in the world, there's no protections for that child. There's a lot of hypocrisy surrounding it. So what is it really about? I believe and I think that it is about so-called white people are afraid that their numbers are dwindling. They're going to lose their majority. They're going to lose their power, their standing, their place. And they know the horrific atrocities that they have committed all over this planet. And they're afraid that if they lose power, control, position, and place, that the proverbial chickens will come home to roost. That it'll be time to pay the piper, so they'll do anything legal and illegal to prevent that from happening. So with that being said, I think this is what this is really about, to force white women to have children. Because here in the United States, over 60% of abortions come from white women. And then you add interracial relationships along with that, and the fact that white women don't want to get married anymore and they don't want to have children. They got jobs, they have careers, they have educations, they just don't want to do it. So I feel as though this is what this is really about. And to get even deeper, there's really no such thing as a white person, and there's really no such thing as a black person. It doesn't exist. Also, there's no such thing as a black person. That there's nobody that's black. This jacket that I'm wearing is black. This hat that I'm wearing is black. But my skin is brown. One of the first things we learn in school is our colors. We learn our colors. Yeah. And this is brown. My jacket is black. And then there is the color white. Now, what some people will say is, I done seen some black people. I done seen some people so dark that they black. And I done seen some people so pale that they're white. I disagree. Yes, there are some people who are a dark. But when you put the color black up next to them, you can tell the difference. There are some people who are pale. But when you put the color white up against them, you can tell the difference. Even if there are some people who are literally black and some people who are literally white, that is the exception and not the rule. My skin is not black. My skin is brown. And their skin is not white. There's no country or continent by the name of black or white. So it was a lie from its very inception to divide and conquer, and it's a lie now that has been debunked. The notion of race has actually scientifically and factually been debunked since 1950. But yet we're still perpetuating this lie. There is no race. And so-called white people are afraid that they're going to become extinct. You're not going to become extinct. Your seed lives on. Your ancestry lives on. It'll just be another skin complexion. That's it. And at the end of the day, who cares? What difference does it make as long as you survive, as long as you live on? Just another skin complexion, that's it. But that's what this is really all about. And, it's really sad to see us doing this to each other and allowing this to be done to us when we're all being used. So-called black people and so-called white people and everybody in between, we're all being used, manipulated, and lied to, and maneuvered to do the things that we do and head in the directions that we're heading. Really sad. We are here in the United States. I believe that we are witnessing the fall of Rome. But it is what it is. Are we going to do anything to change it? Probably not. Because at this point, it's got nothing to do with what's right or wrong. It's got nothing to do with what's a truth or a lie. It's got to do with what we want to believe. If you want to believe some shit, you're going to find a way to believe it. If you don't want to believe it, you're going to find a way not to believe it. For those that believe, no explanation is necessary. For those that do not believe, no explanation will suffice. And that's just the way it is. And truth and enlightenment is not always pleasant. Everybody's talking about being woke, being woke, being woke. We might find out some things that we weren't prepared to find out. We might find out some truths that we don't want to believe and some truths that we don't want to accept. Knowledge and truth doesn't always go your way. Like, for example, every dark-complected person didn't come from Africa. Some dark-complected people migrated from Europe. Some dark-complected people were aristocracy and aristocrats from Europe that treated the indigenous people of this land and Africans just as bad, if not worse, than so-called white Europeans. Now that's a truth. There are African slaves who won their freedom and bought slaves and treated them just as bad, if not worse, than our lighter complected European counterparts. Also, the indigenous people of this land were my skin complexion and looked like me and never stepped foot in Africa. Didn't even know what Africa was. They looked like me. If you don't believe it, look up the $5 Indian. And why do Native Americans look the way that they look now? Inbreeding. 500 years ago, there were no Europeans over here. There was nothing but dark-complected people that looked like me. But within 500 years, look how much things have changed. All of this stuff is just lies, manipulations, half-truths, and perceptions. So you got to take all of these things into consideration when you decide what you believe and when you decide what you want to believe, because all of our lives and well-being depend upon it. We like to think of things in a certain term, but the reality is The fastest rising group of millionaires here in the United States right now are so-called black people. The largest demographic of poor, impoverished, and uneducated people in the United States is so-called white people. There's more so-called white people on welfare, food stamps, and public assistance living below the poverty line than any other demographic. All of the Republican-controlled states here in the United States are predominantly white, and the poorest states in the Union, the most impoverished states in the Union, are white and Republican-controlled. Conversely, all of the major cities and towns here in the United States that are democratically controlled and have black mayors and black leadership are the poorest, most impoverished, most crime-ridden cities and towns in the United States. What does that say? What does that mean? It clearly means that your skin complexion don't mean shit. It ain't about race, because race doesn't even exist. It is an imaginary construct. It does not exist. It never has existed. It never will exist. It is a class war. The haves against the have-nots. The wealthy against everyone else. And I didn't say the rich. I said the wealthy, because the rich are being used and controlled the same way that we are. Many of them just don't realize it. What is the difference between somebody rich and somebody wealthy? Somebody rich may have a few million. Somebody wealthy, they have money. They have billions, maybe even trillions. They just don't want you to know. And their parents had this money. Their grandparents, their great-grandparents, their great-great-grandparents, they've had money for generations and centuries. They are the wealthy. And they are against everyone else. And they've become masters on how to divide and conquer. They employ people like Edward Bernays. Look him up. They create entities like the Tavistock Stock Institute. Look that up. They have people write books like The Birth Dearth. Look that up. They use fear and intimidation and scare tactics to manipulate people into behaving the way that they behave. These people doing all these mass shootings and all of this crap, somebody manipulated them to do that. They don't have the knowledge, information, and education to know better. They're being lied to and manipulated and frightened and maneuvered and coerced into these behaviors. The shooter, the 19-year-old shooter that went to that grocery store in Buffalo, he had thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Where did he get the money to buy that? He had just graduated from high school. His parents didn't have that kind of money. Well, where did he get it? Those guns that he had, those three guns that he had, those were high dollar, high value weapons. The body armor that he had, high value, high dollar. The amount of ammunition and the kind of ammo that he used was not cheap. I'm a gun dude, I know. I'm at work right now providing executive protection for a wealthy gentleman. He had help. He had logistical support. He had guidance. Just gas money to drive 200 miles. Where'd he get the car from? Who bought him the car? Who got him the gas? Food, lodging. That takes logistical support. And he had it. We're all being lied to. It's all bullshit. There ain't nobody white. There ain't nobody black. There's just different skin complexions. If me and my wife, whose skin complexion's a lot like mine, have a child, and that child grows up and marries someone with a fair skin complexion, so-called white, and they have a baby, that baby's going to be lighter complected. And if that baby grows up and marries someone white and they have a child, that baby's going to